Welcome, everyone. This is Pellet News, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Krister.
Hello.
Cinders.
Hello.
And Sanswinda.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. And are you ready to hear some release notes?
Yes, I have my coffee. I have my water. Yes. I'm ready.
Therefore, that's right. This week we had the release of update 44.3 on Wednesday, June 18, 2025. And this brings to us the new and revised Midsummer Festival. Yes, new for this year's Midsummer Festival, you're invited to visit the far-off tropical island of Furtherholm, located in the Shield Isles off the coast of Umbar in the Bay of Belfalas. A crew of freebooters have retired from a life of sea to open the island as a retreat for travelers from all parts of Middle-earth. Come enjoy the sun and surf and collect rewards for lending a hand. All previous festivities, locations, and events associated with the Midsummer Festival also remain available as well. To start this new summer adventure, talk to Ikajat in front of the city stables in Minas Tirith Midsummer. She can also be found at the Party Tree Thorns Hall Inn inside the Prancing Pony and the Festival Garden in Dweeland. Furtherholm adds a total of 35 quests to the Midsummer Festival, including a dozen daily repeatables that count towards the existing Midsummer wrappers. Also included is a Gathering Guests, a quest that has a daily and weekly wrappers for 14 different subquests to choose that can send players to all parts of Middle-earth. Note that some Gathering Guests may not be available on Legendary Worlds, because you won't be high enough level and the level cap not being high enough either. Additionally, there are 2 new deeds with titles that players can earn. So that's it then. Updated Summer Festival. We'll talk about that a little bit more after we go through the rest of the release notes. And the Midsummer Festival is currently active, and it'll remain active until 3 a.m. Eastern on July 8th. Also of note is that our Legendary World of Treebeard has reached its final level cap of 130 with the release of Update 44.3. Yes, that is a little bit earlier than originally planned. And Treebeard will be closing, remember, after August 31st, 2025. You didn't think I'd go an entire episode without saying that, right? Along with the rest of last week, yes. Along with the rest of the 32-bit game worlds. You can read more about the free transfers from the link in the release notes. Very well. That's also news and notes. They have other release notes in here. Now, let's see. We have miscellaneous. The reputation requirement for the sale to Dol Amroth King's Gondor skill granting item has been corrected. We have made changes to the hardtack of Thorns Hall special brew quest to ensure that the quest will complete. The hooded cloak of the Wise Wanderer and hooded cloak of Roach can now correctly show the hood's texture on female avatars for the Race of Man, River Hobbits, and Bjornings. The Mushroom Hunters pack of the Able Angler, and pack of Whimsy now correctly accept dyes. And in French and German, translations for several titles are now displayed properly in French and German. For the captain, the banner of the West Armor now correctly states that one of its set bonuses will cause Shadow's Lament to reset the cooldown of cutting attack. As for the legendary Mirkwood and White instances in Stoneheight, Del Truit and Bubhoshgrat now deal slightly less damage on Tier 2 difficulty. In North Cotton Farm, Legberthiller's Tier 2 egg morale has been reduced by 40%, and the initial damage from Thotter's poisonous vapor corruptions has been reduced. In the Lost Temple, the cooldown for Fernder's virulent plague has been reduced from 20 seconds down to 15 seconds, and Frummalog's morale has been reduced by 50%. In Sarasurma, several Carrig and Guardian skills no longer stun or daze players. Cold Bear's Spirit form now correctly requires and consumes 90% of his power when using Roar of the Damned. And Drugot's Stolen Bjorning skill no longer fears players, but its wound is more potent. In Ostunhoth, in the Gorthron wing, Ivar's stolen powers has been adjusted slightly to smooth out the potency of each skill across each of the 4 tiers. In particular, Monomat's stolen power is significantly weaker, and its difficulty across tiers is much more gradual. In Gorthron's challenge mode, condition now clearly tiers it up from 1 to 20 and has 5 visible tiers from 21 to 25, which allows you to see if you have any buffer to kill ads without failing the challenge. In Gorthron's challenge mode, chess now spawns correctly in all appropriate circumstances in which the challenge is completed. In Gorthron's morale has been reduced by 25%, and some ads in Gorthron's encounter now have slightly reduced health.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah?
For probably you and Krister more than anybody else. How long has Ostunhoth been out?
Let's see.
Long time.
That would be with Edit Whites.
This long for them to adjust it.
Well, it's these adjustments that are being done are because of the Legendary Worlds reaching it.
Okay,
okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking at this going, are you kidding me? How many times have we pounded against that and died? Like, okay.
Well,
so this is only effective for the Legendary server?
No. It's effective across the board, but the reason why they're doing a rebalance now is because of the Legendary Worlds reaching it, because the last time they did an adjustment was probably with whatever combat rules existed before. Since they've rebalanced combat a bit since the last time I think a world has passed through this as their level cap.
Okay, so I would like to vote that we try it again, reading some of these.
Okay, let me read I think the next one is probably, that I'm about to read, is probably the one that's more relevant to the reason why we usually rage quit.
Yes, but I've been looking at this going, this, interesting. Okay, go.
Okay. Let's go to the Wound and Fear Wings. Mammoth morale has been reduced by 25%, right?
Poor Mammoth.
Wound Wing enemy other than Mammoth morale has been reduced by 33%. And Silverteen troll damage has been reduced slightly. And now, unfortunately, in all this stuff, there's nothing to help you to actually reach the point where you're allowed to fight the mammoths. Because we tend to wait before we even get that far.
Well, but by doing this, right?
Oh!
So they said in the Wound Wing, any enemy besides the mammoth, they've reduced them around by 33%, which should make it easier to get to where you can fight the mammoths.
Right,
and it should make mammoths go down and ads go down so much faster.
Right. The ads going down by 33%, probably will help that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we will have to try it again just to see if we can actually do it now. Because the last couple of times we tried it, I said, well, how about this one? He said, you mean this one that we all hate because of how much? How bad it can be? Do we find out how bad it could be?
I think class balance is probably still going to matter.
Yeah,
that would be accurate. And I think you're probably still going to want to have 12 people.
Yeah, we usually when we try it, we don't quite have 12 people, which goes a long way toward making it more difficult.
Yes. But this makes it seem more feasible. And I'd be really interested to try it with a full fellowship and see how it runs. With a raid, like you're supposed to do it, and see if it runs more smoothly. And if class is as important if it's done like this. I mean, obviously you'll want your DPS and your tanks, etc. But if everything's going down faster, do you need as much DPS? Those kinds of questions. Yeah, I would be curious.
Yeah,
I'm not planning to conduct an experiment, but I would be curious if anybody else does to find out what they think.
Does that mean I'm going to have to play in the high group in Friday Night Fights next week?
Maybe.
It might
I
be
don't
fun.
know.
Well, we'll have to think on that. All right, now for the disease and poison wing. Bale leaf and dour bark morale has been reduced by 30%. Birchhound morale has been reduced by 25%. Raging Stole Troll damage has been reduced slightly. Frothmar morale has been reduced by 30%, and Nunhoth Nimmu morale has been reduced by 33%. And as for level 35 instance rewards, the chance of rewards from all level 65 challenge chests, the Mirkwood and ITA, have been increased. This refers only to level 65 rewards and has no impact when these instances are run at level 66 or above. So no, this is something that's very, very much intended for the legendary worlds.
Yeah.
And armor tokens are now more likely to drop from all chests in both Barad Guldur and also Dunhoth at level 65. And those are the release notes for update 44.3.
That wasn't too bad.
So it was mainly Treebeard to level 130, adjustments to the that was from In Their Absence. I guess that's from In Their Absence, right? In Their Absence, we had those being updates to those items for the level 65 worlds, and of course the coming of the updates to the Midsummer Festival.
I think we can summarize this as mammoth morale reductions.
Mammoth morale reductions.
Boy, that sounds disappointing. What do you mean?
Poor mammoths.
Hey, we didn't reduce their weight, we just reduced their morale.
They're also sad now.
Oh, sad mammoths.
Depressed mammoths.
Depressed mammoth. All right. Next, we have the Midsummer Festival Guide. You can learn more about Midsummer Festival and get started earning your rewards. And so they have the full article on there about what's in there. First of all, how to get started, and the center point of the Midsummer Festival is, of course, at Minas Tirith Midsummer, which is a place that is only reachable by Stable Master. It's not a landscape area, because the landscape areas that they have for Minas Tirith, they have the after battle Minas Tirith and of course the before battle Minas Tirith. So Midsummer is even further down the road on that time, so you can't reach it currently by anything other than going through the special Stable Masters. They do give a list of Stable Masters where you can get it from the Bjorning Hoos, Southbury, Karaskalaten, Edoras, Erebor, Thelagoth, Galtrev, Mikkel Minas Tirith, and Minas Tirith Main Gate, Minas Tirith Midsummer, the other gates for Minas Tirith Midsummer, Osgiliath, Rivendell, Scarhald, Thorin's Gate, and Zidionistad, the Steep Set. So take one of those stable masters and you can get over to Minas Tirith Midsummer. Actually, don't the housing stable masters also take you there, or am I misremembering that?
I haven't looked.
I think that's how you normally get there. Obviously, I may have just gone by another way. I may have taken that to someplace else, whatever.
Let's say I do know though that Mickle Delving will take you there. And Bree, the gate that the port goes to, does not.
Right, because they say South Bree, which is right,
Yep.
and the port takes you to West Bree.
Yep. But I did try out the Mickle Delving version and did look at West Bree and was like, "Oh, that's weird." So then I went to Mickle Delving.
Okay. When you get to Minas Tirith Midsummer, speak with Violet located at the main gate to Minas Tirith, to pick up the wrapper quest in celebration of Midsummer, a fondness of festivity, and the majesty of Midsummer. And that's all about the main thing, which leads to the wedding and all that fun stuff that you have in there. Note that Minas Tirith Midsummer is actually open when the festival is not active, because the Midsummer epic storyline is always available regardless of the time of the year. The only thing that being during the festival changes is that they also have a number of quest activity and the festival activities there that are in addition to the wedding, and those are active only during the festival time. But what's new for 2025 is Furtherhome. New for this year's Midsummer Festival, you're invited to visit the far-off tropical island of Furtherhome, located in the Shield Isles off the coast of Umbar in the Bay of Belfalas. A crew of freebooters have retired from the life of the sea and the island and a retreat to travelers from parts of Middle-earth. Come enjoy the sun and surf and the collect rewards that have all previous festival locations and events associated with Midsummer are available as well. That's, of course, a repeat of what they had in the release notes. To start this new summer adventure, talk to... Yeah, I think that whole thing is in the release notes, right? Yeah, okay, I've already read that paragraph. So, yeah, it looks like they didn't add any text above what was in the release notes there. And then they talk about how to get around Minas Tirith Midsummer and the quests that are going to be there. And also, they give a list of the questing outside of Furtherhome and Minas Tirith. So, because there are some things at Bree Town, at Kellendim, at Dwynlund, at the Party Tree, and at Thorns Hall. And of course, you can't forget the horse race, right? Or have you forgotten it?
Tried to block it out of my memory.
Horse race? What horse race, Painleaf?
So, I've done it once, and that was it. I lost in each place, but it was fun to give it a go round.
Yeah, well, no, when you say you lost, you mean you didn't get there in time?
Yes.
Right, and the reason why I'm saying that is because originally, because right now it's a time trial, but originally it was actually literally a race, and people, of course, always complained because they will swear that they won the race or anything like this, and the game got it wrong and all that stuff, and I eventually noticed how the way the game operates or anything, it always has, whenever you're in a situation like this, it always seems to have you a few seconds ahead of everyone else in keeping things up to date, because you're given priority in your movement over everybody else's. So everyone sees themselves crossing the finish line first, and it's only a neutral party that can tell who was the actual first one, because a neutral party that's just standing there is able to see the actual order of finish. And because of that phenomena, I have a feeling that they just decided, okay, they had to give up. They were not going to do player versus player in the horse race anymore. So yeah, it's no longer literally a horse race, but
That makes sense. You can still
it,
run it with up to 4 people at a time, though. I've at least seen 2 or 3 people running it at the same time and just waited for them to all finish and get off the track before I started.
yeah, okay. That's a holdover from the original implementation. Yeah,
Right, and they're like each running against their own timer. It's not like they're competing
right.
against each other directly. But I also don't want to like mess somebody else up or be messed up by somebody crossing in front of me and me going, I don't want to run them over, even though it's not really what they want to do.
You're right, and yeah, I could just imagine if you swerve and then miss a gate.
Right?
Rewards! Numerous rewards are available in exchange for your Midsummer Festival tokens. Typical rewards including consumables like fireworks, housing decorations, emotes, pets, mounts, wearable cosmetics, musical instruments, and more. Remember that Midsummer tokens have a cap of 250, and you will not earn additional Midsummer tokens until you spend down to less than 250. So make sure that you pick up your rewards. And the following items are available in Midsummer tokens: seaside wading shoes, sun hat, bow hand wrap, bathing costume, tote, garments, and a general garments thing, which is a gift wrap box where you could select. That way you could give some garments as a gift to somebody else. You also have the Tome of the Seaside Kite, and a Seaside Steed, caparison, headpiece, and saddle. You also get a messy bed, an unkempt bed, a strangely occupied bed, a seaside jacaranda planter, a seaside wisteria planter, a small seaside jacaranda planter, a small seaside wisteria planter, further home landscape themes, and the cracked flagon themes. And also, you can get the following items for Mithril: the Tome of the Seaside Kite, the Seaside Steed, and the Seaside War Steed cosmetics. Though, of course, if you are earning those Midsummer tokens, you more likely want to buy them with Midsummer tokens than Mithril. But if you refuse to do any of the quests, those 3 items will be available for Mithril instead. Now, I believe that yesterday we did some of this stuff, so anyone have any thoughts about the new area in the festival?
Yes, I have thoughts.
Ooh.
I have big thoughts. Okay, first of all, we answered the question from last week, which was, what would these bathing suits look like? And the answer is, they look way cooler than our underwear in game. And, I was very pleased. So
I think they're probably about the same temperature.
yes. And so I got it for my character yesterday, and I need to get it for M so that I have one on Peregrine as well as on Glamdring. Or Sting rather. And I really liked it as a cosmetic. It's awesome. I haven't checked to see if it's dyeable, but I would guess that it's probably not. But it is really cool. And then running all around with everybody was a lot of fun yesterday. And I liked how they put the island together, and everything functioned in a way that made it go smoothly. And I really enjoyed the new area. I don't know. How did you guys feel about it, Sans Pineleaf?
I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed that when I did it again today on a different character, I got slightly different like pop-up notices.
Yeah.
And that was fun too.
Pop-up notice?
Yeah, like when you're
How
swimming, like the one time I swam, it was like, this is a nice enough place, but it's very public, or something to that effect. And then the next time
I got that one yesterday.
The next time I was swimming through it, today on a character, it said, well, at least here everybody can watch you drown or something to that effect. I was just chuckling. I was like, okay, somebody put some thought into making this not say the same thing every single time. That's cool.
It does make it interesting to do, and kind of like the Winterfest quests, the Yulefest quests, you can choose whether you're going to run off critters or if you're going to keep them. Like you can choose to shoo off people or let them stay. So I thought that was pretty fun. Except it's cats in the new area. And then depending on what you choose, of course, you get different reactions either way. And with the field trip yesterday, one person ran them all off, and other people, most of the rest of us, chose to let them stay. And so it was kind of fun to be able to have some choice in how you wanted to do that.
I just realized the difference might have been the difference in the type of character I was running. Because yesterday when we did it, we were on humans. I was on a human. Lore Master.
Yep.
And when I did it today, and they're like, everybody's going to just watch me drown, I was on a hobbit. And so...
But still...
Anyway, it was
like, that's
cute.
a nice little change.
It is. I'll have to run it a few more times and see
what it says for elves.
Or if it always
dwarves.
says the same thing for hobbits versus humans or something like that, you know.
Yeah, but then
But
because if it's something about drowning and stuff like this, it'll probably only be Shire hobbits because river hobbits.
But that would be something worth checking.
Okay, so now I've got to go run it on all the races. Clearly, this is how I get so many characters, you guys.
Except that I do know you have enough characters on Peregrine of all the races to be able to do that without any problems or creating new ones.
Well, I think I did transfer most of them over, or I can, but yeah.
And then, let's see, what else was I going to say about it? They gave it the same kind of detail that you get in the city of Umbar and in the other areas of Umbar, where it's it looks good from all sides, including the ones you're not really supposed to be looking at it from. Ask me how I know. But no, it was really enjoyable. My one thing that I would say about it is once you get there, you need to have a port to get somewhere else because it doesn't have a dock master or a stable master to port you out again.
Yeah, that is rather strange that there's no... Yeah, that there's no stable master and no milestone there.
Right? Yeah, like you can stable in, but you have to have a port out. So that's just something to have kind of on your back burner. If you do go to further home, is make sure you have an escape route should you need one. And then, what was the other thing? I forgot.
All right. For further reading, we hope you have a wonderful summer in Minas Tirith and enjoy the celebrations around the grand wedding. Players who also have created excellent guides. So, of course, you have the LOTRO Midsummer Festival Guide by Firebro Jedi, who is probably the most popular one that we usually talk about on there. We have the Midsummer Festival Guide at the LOTRO Wiki, the Quick Guide by Little Redhead from Life Beyond the Shire blog, and The Great Wedding by Deco de Malou if you are wanting to concentrate on the wedding side. But of course, not all these are going to have the latest stuff in there. But I would assume that Fibro Jedi will, because he usually tries to stay as up to date in all this as possible.
Checking X now, formerly known as Twitter.
Formerly known as...
to see if there is information from him on there, because he usually puts stuff on there to tell us if he's updated it.
Well, he has he has the Seaside Kite in here for the 2025 cosmetic pet, and
so 2 days ago he said that although he's about to go through it quest by quest, there is a specific guide to further home, all the quests and a bunch of clips, and he says that he's also gone through the main Midsummer guide to increase quality of images, etc. So that should be helpful. And included Warsteed cosmetics. Which, Krister, did you take a look at that Warsteed cosmetics?
I have not yet.
Okay.
How does it look?
It looks pretty cool. So
yeah, it looks like his further
probably
home
not
guide.
dyeable, and
Yeah.
it's definitely not Shire Plum dyeable because they don't have it yet. But
It looks like that further home, his further home festival guide is not quite linked in yet properly. There seems to be the link is broken, or maybe he's in the middle of updating it right now, or something like that. But I'm not able to link into it at the moment. So hopefully that link will work eventually. And
is it the one on the LOTRO page?
No, I'm talking about about Fibro Jedi's
Yep.
guide.
The further home guide isn't linked properly there.
Right. So let's then head into our look into Update 45 Beta number 1 for its release notes. And when reading the Update 41 Beta number 1, it looks very, very much like the build they had last week that was just called the PvP test or something like that. So it's essentially the next step to this. Probably the biggest thing that they noted in here is that the class updates, they're in the middle of doing the class updates for burglars and hunters, and they essentially said that the burglars and hunters were not ready. They were in the middle of updates, and play those classes at your own risk, and please do not submit any bug reports on these two ones because they're right now in pretty much a broken state on Bull Roarer because they were in the middle of the update. So they've done half the stuff, but the other half wasn't ready to work with. So if you wanted to go to Bull Roarer this last week, I hope that you weren't attempting to play on a burglar or a hunter, but hopefully those classes will be ready by next week so that people could actually test that out so they can find out how well they're working. And they decided they are going to call Update 45 Allies and Adversaries. Who the allies are and who the adversaries are, I don't think we know yet because they weren't talking about questing or where you'll be or anything like this. All they've been talking about here was the PvP stuff, unless the allies and adversaries are a reference to what's going on the PvP side. And usually the bulk of an update is not just the PvP stuff. I think that was just the stuff that was already ready when they were forming the first major build in here. At least that's the hypothesis I'm going with through the moment. Anyway, as I said, the class changes, they weren't quite ready for theirs, so I suspect maybe either next week or the week after that, they will finally be ready for people to actually test the class updates to say what they think went wrong with the Hunter and Burger ones, right? Because it always seems like people are all very, very excited about the class changes until they actually see them.
Without a doubt, yes.
Yeah. Also, there was also doing stuff on kinship refresh. Now, concerning kinship refresh, because they are doing work on refreshing kinships, and what they're noting here is that they are right now in the less interesting phase of it. They are doing background work on the kinship updates so they could support the changes that are being planned further along. As a result of this, they're asking you that if you see, they're asking people to create kins, join kins, to do all the normal things you do in running a kin on there and report anything they see wrong. And they didn't want to bias the people in them because it was all background work. It should not have affected the front end in any way. So what they're worried about is, did something they did in the background break anything within the canon here? And I think I did hear at least one report of something that was noticed in there, because I think I saw a message record of it acknowledging the bug report in there. So yes, there are going to be a couple of problems in there, and that's why they want to be able to take care of those bugs now before they actually go and put into the real work of the new items for the kinch, because they want to make sure that the old stuff is at a proper place. So yes, they are getting started on that kinship refresh, which is what, about 10 years overdue? And we'll see how that
10
works.
years in terms of having a conversation with an ant. It's just a snap of the fingers, snap of the twigs.
Yes. All right. Also, of course, the bulk of this are the Etmore changes that they were starting to test in last week's build in there, and talk about all the various changes. I think I've already discussed those in the Etmore stuff, so therefore I'm not going to go about this for this week's beta build. And I believe that I read the regular release notes in here. A lot of these also sounded very, very familiar, like they were in there last week. So I'm not going to go into those either, because they were talking about all the little class skills and stuff like that, and I did quite a bit of talking. In fact, some of these items are the stuff that went into update 44.3, like all the stuff in Stoneheit and Ostunhoth and stuff like that. So that's it for the first round of beta in there, and hopefully we'll have something nice for a later one. So now it looks like we have something called Shirefest coming up. What's this all about?
Okay, so while I was over on X, I was looking at the LOTRO account, and it is Shirefest. So if you are listening live and you want to hear live music, it is running today and into tomorrow. And it is happening on Glamdring. It moved from Landerval to Glamdring. And the schedule is at that link.
All right, and this is Shirefest 12.
Yes.
So at its new venue, yes.
Yep.
So all times, of course, are server times that they give in there. And it looks like at least tomorrow it opens up at noon and ends with at 9 p.m. The last item in there is called the Mardi Gras Party Band. That sounds like a strange band name to have during a midsummer festival.
Well, I'm sure the bands don't change their names.
Well, okay, you get a point there.
I'm kind of bummed that we missed Crazy Ladies of the Forest today, though.
Crazy Ladies of the Forest.
Yeah, that was the 1 o'clock feature today.
Yeah, they're having scheduling a band called Midnight at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is. I suppose that if they were playing in Poland, as it actually.
Yeah, it's midnight somewhere.
Yeah, is it Poland or Russia or someplace like that? I guess it might have been midnight around the time they were playing, but
Hey, we can all adjust our clocks.
we got to adjust our clocks.
Oh no, you mean Middle Earth has daylight savings time too?
By like multiple hours.
Oh well. Let's head to our store sales. Cinders, what's on sale this week?
On sale this week, it is Hot Days, Hot Deals. Summer sales are here still. This week's specials include 35% off legendary item services, 60% off the Middle Earth Adventuring Pack, and 85% off Warsteed upgrades and cosmetics through June 26th. You can also be known across the land and get 30% off of plus 2,000 Virtue Acceleration, plus 5,000 Enhanced Reputation Supply, plus 100% Mark Acquisition Boost, also through June 26th. And the weekly coupon, in case you don't have enough, a pig in the blanket housing decoration with coupon code ISleepHere, no spaces, also through June 26th.
Whee! Thank you, Cinders. And it's now time for our week in gaming. We'll find out what we've been up to in this last week. And Krister, what shenanigans have you been up to?
Well, this week was not a week of gaming. It was a week of unexpected computer death and then recovery from unexpected computer death. But I'm happy to report that I am now on my new machine and it is stable. And I just last night finished one of my big downloads. And so it's been a lot of downloading. So that's the downloading's in my future to get this, get all the games back up and running. So I believe I'll have a lot more to report next week, including how I feel about this new machine. Cinders, what did you get up to?
All right, so in Stardew Valley, because it's summertime and I had loads of time on my hands to game, I played in the joint game with Pine Leaf. My character actually did get married and had a kid this week. And in my personal game, I made it tier 2. Oh, and in the game with Pine Leaf, I caught Legend. So I have caught 2 of the legendary fish, and I caught it on my first try, which was even more impressive. Key lobster bisque. But in my personal game, I made it tier 2 of spring. So I am looking forward to that. I've got a couple of my skills to level 10 already out of the 5 that you need to get leveled up. So just mining and combat to work on. I think I have 3 of them already at level 10. And then I got back into LOTRO. So I did do some LOTRO with the Academy folks. We tried out the new festival area of Further Home, like we talked about earlier. And then moved characters around to Sting and Glamdring. So my monster player characters and one level 20-ish character moved over to Glamdring, but then I moved the rest to Sting to be able to continue to play at the Academy. And then I did some LOTRO playing with Ploy. We worked on leveling Sanswinda to level 150, doing protos and scrades. We started with 8 people, and we slowly dwindled down to just Sans and I at the end. But we did succeed. And then today I did LOTRO delvings with Sans, and we did great until level 10. And then we had like 5 deaths between the 2 of us. But we did finish it, so I'm very proud of that. Sans, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I ran festival quests on the delightful island with the field trip, which was fun. And, Sanswinda is now level 150 thanks to the help of the Ploy raiding group. And I'm working on actually gearing up to be ready for at least tier 1 instances now. I think there's a pretty decent chance. And I was also delighted to find a treasure chest that was verifiably authentic in the Jacksonville region. It had a jade gemstone inside it, so it was clearly a legitimate treasure chest. And I finished my Golden Pursuits in ESO, and I started really working on figuring out where to send my various alts in LOTRO and transferred some of them to their new servers. That was pretty much my week. How was your week, Pineleaf?
I will. Okay, let's start with my Mariner, who had some bad dreams after a battle at the Fords of Eisen. For Friday night fights. We ran Ironbar's Peak plus a few skirmishes there, and this was on my Guardian. And I was actually in tank mode during this, so I was trying to get used to how the Guardian operates in tank mode because I had been in my solo mode. Because in solo, I go in DPS mode, so I think
Sorry, I was still snickering about the Guardian in DPS mode. I'm sorry, Piley. If Guardian's in DPS mode, it's still not DPS.
Well, my Guardian seems to be doing better DPS than some of my other characters when I'm in DPS mode.
I think I need to hang out with your Guardian and figure out what you're doing differently because...
Or you should check the gear of your other characters who seem to not be doing as much DPS.
Well,
because even DPS mode on Guardian is still like hacking at things with paper.
well, I don't know because I feel like I am just blasting the enemies in DPS mode.
Wait, what level are you?
Yeah, this is a lower level, and this is
that
88.
might make a difference too.
Yeah, it could be the level. It could be that when I get to 130. Yeah, it could be that when I get to 130 and 150, it's going to be. I did equip a weapon, didn't I?
Right?
Yes.
Let's say shield spikes are the only reason M does DPS, even in DPS mode. Like, if she wants to kill stuff, she has to use shield spikes.
Yeah. Well, I keep on forgetting to use shield spikes on that character, so it's obviously not shield spikes, which is giving me any DPS.
Yeah, like I said, I might just need to hang out with your character, figure out what you're doing.
Okay.
It'd be nice
But most likely, it could just be a matter of my level.
That's possible.
All right. And in Stardew Valley, my Riverland farmer is in the middle of fall of the second year, so I'm making good progress there. I have one more fish to catch before finishing the Master Angler one. Then that's the stingray. So all I have to do is get a few more golden walnuts, and I'll be able to access the area where I can do that. That would be nice. And I'm hoping I'm going to do that by the end of the second year. I'm also wondering, is it possible for me to finish the museum before the end of the second year, or is that going to take, because usually the museum is the last, in this case it's going to be the case here also, because the museum is always the last thing that gets finished in any of my runs. It's like, because there's always this one artifact somewhere that's a holdout, and it's a different one every single time. Like, and I'm thinking, like, in my previous one, I think the last thing I found was a trilobite. So in the Riverland one, the first artifact I found was a trilobite. So it's like, really? That's the way things go in there. But I think that things are coming out doing well. I think I'm ahead of any other times in there because I've got all these nice fish in there. I did manage to. Ooh, let's see. I did do my house upgrade, my second upgrade to my house. So I will have a child, I think about to be born or just born or something like this. So right around the border at that time. And that's it for my week in gaming. So if you have any feedback to us, you can send it to podcasts@LOTROplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We record LOTRO Players News and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You can join our shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight then. This is Pilot from the Hills reminding you to skirmish responsibly.